Hello, and welcome to the Take Your Job Search to the X Level presented by General Electric Credit Union and the Xavier Leadership Center. Both organizations share a mission to serve families, individuals, and communities across the greater Cincinnati region. We're very excited to do that through this 8-session series to help you learn what works and what doesn't directly from professional career coaches, human resource executives, and hiring managers who work with some of the area's largest employers. Thanks again for joining us if this is your second time, and welcome if you are new to our series. A few logistical things for our session today. We ask that you use the chat feature for requested exercises, feedback, questions, and comments. We'll be monitoring chat and sharing your thoughts, ideas, and reflections. We'll have time at the end of the session for questions and answers, but feel free to submit your questions during the session and we'll get to them as we can. Today's session, Your Personal Brand and Strengths, is led by our partner, Valerie Plis. Valerie has over 23 years of experience in human resources, specializing in training and development, performance management, and career and leadership development. As a strengths performance coach, Valerie helps leaders and teams identify and leverage their strengths to maximize engagement and improve personal and team performance. Valerie, thank you for being with us today and for sharing your wisdom and your experience.
Thank you, Carol. I'm super excited to be here. This is probably one of my favorite topics that I like to talk about, that I've worked with clients in the past around. And so I hope you're going to take away some great insights, some new information that's really going to make an impact in your job transition moving forward. There's no shortage of advice and coaching and information. If you go out and Google personal brand, there's just a limitless number of resources and ideas around this particular topic. All I can do is share from my personal experience. I've been on all sides of this job search experience. I've been on the HR side, where I've been the hiring manager. I've been the coach, where I've worked with individuals with some of the biggest barriers to employment, find and land exciting work faster. And most recently, I was a job seeker myself. My business was affected by COVID, and I decided that I wanted a little shift and decided to go out and pursue a job on my own. In fact, I've been in the role that I'm in right now for only 5 weeks. So I'm a recent new hire myself. So I'm going to be sharing with you strategies that have worked for me, my clients over the past 20 plus years that I think will make a difference for you. Now, I was sharing before we started the video, I can't see your face. And so I'm used to presenting and I get a lot of energy seeing your face. So what I'm curious to know is, okay, so right now I'm sitting in my office at home and I'm in Mainville. Where are you? Tell me where you're at. Put that in chat. I'd love to know where you're at, and if you're outside, if you're on your patio, if you're in an office. Okay, we're at Xavier, Blue Ash, Liberty Township, Oakley on the couch. Okay, that's sweet. Westchester in my bay window. Fairfield at home. Atlanta in my office.
That's great, yeah. Birmingham,
Michigan.
Yeah.
Delhi couch. Okay, I love it. Newport. Anderson in my 3-season room. This is a pretty day to be out, right? Okay, let's jump in there. So here's what we're going to be covering today as we go through the content over the next 45 minutes or so. I want you to understand why having a powerful or a strong personal brand is extremely important to you in your transition, number one. Number two, I want to give you the skills on how to develop one. It doesn't have to be overcomplicated. I don't want you to overcomplicate it. I want you to treat it as an exercise that is simple, but it's very strategic at the same time. So we're going to wind up the session at the end with a Q&A, and you'll be able to ask some questions. In the meantime, Carol has already suggested put your questions in chat, and she'll make a point to stop me and ask me, all right? And then I can address it at that time. So again, here, I really want to know who I'm talking to today. I have a question for you. What type of job are you searching for? If you can share that with me in chat, what type of job are you searching for?
So we got here some local government, VP, director jobs, information technology, something from home, customer service, chemical technology, HR or L&D, project managers, changing roles to an HR role, an agile coach, full-time nonprofit or education, director team management, COVID proof. I like it.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Communications. Good.
Okay, so we've got a variety of markets or job targets that we're focused on. Here's my next question. When it comes to your job search, what has been your biggest challenge? If you'll share your answer in chat.
So we've got age discrimination, effective networking, figuring out exactly what I want to do, working remotely, not being able to connect, defining my strengths and what I need from a new job, introvert in an extrovert world, getting motivated, getting noticed, fear that the grass may not be greener on the other side. It's been 30 years and I don't know LinkedIn and other technology. Yeah, finding a job that you're passionate about at an older age.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. This is awesome. We're going to be hitting some of these. This right here, this topic around personal branding, we'll address some of these issues that you're dealing with today. So again, I hope as we go through the remainder of the content, that you're going to walk away with some great strategies that are going to energize you and excite you and bring you some level of hope, right? That there is that opportunity for you to achieve that remarkable job despite your age, despite any other limitations that you might be putting on yourself or others, okay? So let's play a little exercise here. And in case you haven't figured this out, my style of facilitation is very interactive. I don't like to just stand here and teach or lecture. So this is going to be highly interactive. So here's my next thing. We're going to be doing a series of chats here. Okay. So I'm going to display a logo, okay, on my screen. And I want you to answer this. What is the first impression you get of, or the first impression you have of?
Speed, taking over the world, Amazon, fast, my people, Amazon makes me smile, convenient, recognizable, shop from home, variety.
Love it. Okay.
Great answers.
Great answers. Okay. Here's the next one. What's your first impression when you see?
Money, MasterCard, credit card, charge it, exclamation marks, relevant. Yeah, MasterCard,
yes. Debt.
Yeah.
That's what I see. Right.
A Venn diagram. That's a good one.
That's good.
The 80s.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the next one. What do you think of when you see that?
Do it.
Just do it. Oh
Switch.
gosh, it's
Yeah.
flying.
It's
Yeah.
flying. Yeah. Nike. Just do it. Athletes.
And
Service. Yeah. Exercise. Mel Gibson. Overpriced. Gym shoes.
okay, good.
Like,
What about this
excelling.
one? What about this one?
Crafts, creativity, resources, Pinterest, recipes.
Recipes, yes.
Yeah. Pictures of goofy things. Wedding planning, hobbies, too much info. Social media, creatives, thought starters, teachers.
Okay.
Teachers,
All right.
that's a good one. Yeah.
That's a good one. Here's another one. What's your first impression of?
Quality, expensive, Mac, Apple, computers, innovation, technology, everyday use, great tools, success, design, posh, own their stock, world domination,
That's great.
easy, user-friendly, addiction, controlling, overrated.
Okay.
So yeah.
Great answers. A couple more. Here's one.
Cardi B, Pepsi, refreshing, thirst, creative, sugar. Took someone a minute to see what that was. Cindy Crawford, my mom. So some personal thing, attachment to that. Sodas.
Okay. What about this one? Yeah.
Crappy fries, French fries, junk food, over a billion served, chicken nuggets,
Oh,
childhood, unhealthy, kids,
addictive. Yes.
addictive smell, yeah, grease, Big Mac, golden arches.
Okay.
Good.
Here's another one.
Target,
Favorite place. Okay. One of mine.
yeah, soccer mom, overpriced, shopping, quality,
All right. Here's the last one. What about this one?
coffee everywhere, money, money,
Hey.
money. Yeah, yeah,
Oh, that's great. It's really flying now.
yeah. Overpriced, tolerance, social.
Okay. Great answers. Okay.
Yeah.
So here's my question to you. What impression do you want others to have when they think of you? Put that in chat.
So reliable, professional, experienced but not too good to hire, dependable, empathetic, qualified, loyal, kind, professional, friendly, intelligent, energetic, bright, good leader, talented, sophisticated, reliable, professional, team player.
Okay. Those are all great answers. I love it.
Yeah.
Jeff Bezos, he's the founder of Amazon. He says your personal brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room, or what people say about you once you've left the room. That's your personal brand. Personal branding is not just for CEOs or VPs or athletes or Hollywood, big influencers. It's for the everyday career-minded individual. Even if you're not in a job search, you should always be mindful about your personal brand and what other people are thinking about you, the impressions. You've got to be intentional about how you show up at work every day. So today, when we're talking about personal branding, I want us to think about and approach this from a very proactive standpoint of what can we do, what can you do to influence others' perception of you. Instead of just showing up and saying, hey, here I am, I want to be strategic about how I market myself, how I position myself, how I brand myself. So the things that I want people to think about me or know about me are actually the things that I'm communicating, okay? So if you're familiar, oh my gosh, this was back in, I don't remember when Seth Godin wrote this book. It was called The Purple Cow. I want to say it was back in maybe early 2000, something like that, 2001, 2002. I may not have the date just right, but anyway, he's one of the best-selling business marketing gurus out on the market. And at the time, I was the vice president of an organization here in Cincinnati, and we were really trying to break through into a market, a coaching market that wasn't well recognized in the Cincinnati area at the time. And so I read this book around this purple cow. And so Seth, he talks about taking his family on a vacation over to Europe. And he's talked about, you know, getting off the plane with his family. They got into a taxi and they started to the hotel or the lodging where they would be staying for a few weeks. And he said, when they first got in the taxi and they're driving through the countryside, he's looking up into the fields, up on the mountains, and he just sees tons and tons of cows. They're just everywhere. And for the first few minutes, he's looking at it and he's saying, oh my gosh, this is so cool. This is so beautiful. And then 5 minutes later, he's not paying any attention. It's the same mountainscape. It's the same beautiful fields. It's the same cows, right, that are out there in the field, but they don't have that same impact. And so he tied that to the concept of business branding. And then he went on to say, but you know what? If there was a purple cow out there in that field, that right there, that would be remarkable. That would be remarkable. And so I was thinking at the time, oh my gosh, this is wonderful. This is not only applicable for businesses, right, who are wanting to stand out, but at the time, the organization that I was working for, we were helping job seekers who were in transition, who had a lot of barriers to employment. And this is where this strategy really began to develop and tweak and massage so that we could push past, that's hard to say, our clients could push past some of those ceilings, some of those roadblocks to really get noticed. And so my question to you, if you're not remarkable, if your message is not remarkable, if you're not showing up as purple, right? If you're not remarkable, what are you? Put your answer in chat. If you're not, if your brand is not remarkable, what are you?
So yeah, we've got forgettable, just another one of the herd, boring, just another cow, part of the crowd, bland, and you're just a number. A dependable worker bee.
Okay.
Yeah, average, vanilla, invisible.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Consistent, faceless, just another applicant.
You're so right. Those, yeah. Exactly, you're spot on. If you're not remarkable, you're forgettable. And that's the challenge that many of you are facing right now. Not to be flippant in any way, shape, or form, if you'll put aside some of the other roadblocks that you think are standing in your way and really begin to focus on creating a message, creating a brand that helps you to stand out, I guarantee you, before you know it, you will be going over and under and around those roadblocks, and they will not be an issue for you, because you will be memorable, right? So for the job, I am the Director of Human Capital and Culture at an organization in Lebanon. I'm in charge of the entire HR team for a 150 person manufacturing company. And so I found out there were 500 people that applied for this job. 500 people. Now that's more than what it was, Carol, 20 years ago when you and I became acquainted. It was, the average was 200 applicants for every open position. This
And
position,
that was a big number then, right?
it was a huge number. It seemed insurmountable at the time, right?
Right.
And so now you're looking at even bigger numbers. And so 500 people narrowed down to 14, I think it was 14 phone screens, and then they went into a face-to-face meeting, and then it was a series of on-site interviews. In fact, I went through, it was 4 separate panel interviews, all right? Because employers are wanting to make sure that they get the right person on the right seat, on the right bus the first time. So anyway, okay, let's move on. What is your personal branding? So here's my definition, okay? It's the art of telling a story. And remember, I used the word influence earlier. That's very important. You have the ability to influence what other people think about you. So it's the art of telling a story that shapes and influences the perception of others regarding your ability to perform a job. So that's where we're going to start from. The goal of this whole personal branding exercise is for you to figure out what you need to say and do in order to stand out, in order to be that purple cow out in the field, that at the end of a series of 14 phone screens, you're standing out. At the end of the 7 face-to-face interviews, you are still standing out. At the end of the 4 all-day panel interviews, you are still the most memorable. It has to start from the very beginning where you are today. That's where it's today where you start building this, this remarkable brand. And once you land your job, you don't stop worrying about it then, right? You continue to focus on managing that brand and making sure that you're communicating and influencing the right messages, because I'm sure most of you are working because you have ambitious career goals. Your personal brand will help you get there, okay? Okay, so this right here. One of the reasons why I asked you the question at the very beginning, what type of job are you looking for? Okay, you must start with getting a clear picture of the type of job you're interested in, okay? That's your target. That's your destination. It's like, getting in your car and you're going to a new place that you've never been before. And this is especially true for those of you, whoever it was that was wanting to transition into HR. This is especially true. You've got to do your research. You've got to get very clear upon what role it is in HR that you want to land. So you're going to plug that destination into your GPS, and then your personal brand is going to help you get there, okay? So you've got to start with your target job in mind so that your entire messaging fits that target market, okay? Okay, so let's talk about the 3 keys to unlock your personal brand. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to get out a piece of paper and something to write on. I want you to be jotting down ideas. I'm also going to have a section here in a little bit where I turn on some music and you do a little bit more work. But as I'm talking and stepping you through this process, I want you to start writing down some of these top of mind thoughts and capturing that. Don't wait till after the session is over with, right? Capture these insights, these ideas as we are going through these 3 steps to unlock your personal brand, okay? All right, so here's how I structured my personal brand. And when I started working in the field of career development and career transition 20 years ago, and I was working with individuals with a variety of disabilities. And one story in particular, there was one client I had who was a Harvard graduate, a Harvard law graduate, and had not worked in 13 years due to some physical disabilities. And so here I am. I've been secured by the state of Ohio to help her find a job. So one of the very first things we did was to sit down and talk about her personal brand, okay? Now, immediately we had a lot of roadblocks. She hadn't worked in 13 years. She had never held a job in the field that she graduated in. The list goes on and on. So we had to create this message, this brand that was extremely compelling. And the process that I developed, there were 3 steps, okay? Here's step number 1. The first thing we have to do is, in a single statement, be able to clarify your education or training, okay? So in other words, when you're thinking about your personal brand, and we're going to talk in a few minutes about how you can use this. When we're thinking about your personal brand, you want to come across as someone who's competent, right? Who has the skills, who has the training, who has the background to do the job. If you don't have this, then this is where you need to start. You need to take some classes, you need to read some books, you need to watch some YouTube videos, you need to enroll in a certification, you need to build up that skill, okay? So the first thing is to talk about your education, okay? Whether that's a degree, a bachelor's, an associate, or maybe it's a certification, a technical certification, maybe an IT, or a project management certification, or an HR certification. Really focus on identifying what is the education or training that prepares me to be successful, or has prepared me to be successful in this role. The second thing that's a part of this education and experience statement is to be able to clarify or to talk about your years of experience. So for me, having over 25 years of experience in HR, okay? So again, don't overcomplicate this. You'll see an example here in a second. And the third part of this education/experience statement is to talk about your scope of experience. So for example, for me, my HR background has been mostly around talent development, performance management, and leadership development, okay, organizational development. So when I put all 3 of these into a single statement, here's what you have, okay? I have a bachelor's in leadership studies and organizational communication from DePaul University with 25 years experience in learning and development, performance management, and organizational development with leaders of global teams in Fortune 500 companies, okay? Now, I also have experience working with nonprofits, working with universities, working with, okay, but I'm focused on specifying my education, training, years of experience, and the scope of my experience that is relevant to my target job. All right? If you don't get specific with this, you will be all over the board. And when you're in your resume won't have clarity to it, when you are in an interview and you're answering questions, There won't be a specific, your messages won't be as clear. You want to boil this down and make this as clear as possible, okay? The second key to unlocking your brand is to define your unique promise of value. And I break this down into 3 sections as well, okay? So what separates you when it comes to what you promise to deliver? What separates you from everyone else? Okay? And what do you promise to make happen? That's your branding promise. And the third part is, what is the value of that to the organization? So what separates you from other candidates? Okay? What do you promise to make happen? And what is the value that that brings to the organization? Here's a sample. For me, this is right from my branding playbook, okay? As a Gallup certified strengths coach, now that's part of my training, part of my background, part of my experience that not every HR person had. So I wanted to make sure I leveraged that. As a Gallup certified strengths coach, I have spent the last 11 years building strong leaders, developing high-performing teams, and cultivating a strengths-based culture that, here's my value, okay? That's my promise. That's what I will do. And here's the value. That improves employee engagement and drives critical organizational outcomes. Here's the third and the final key to your branding message. You want to define what I call your strengths DNA. In other words, what is your natural approach to work? What are those unique talents that you have that no one else would have? So if we back up for a moment, in the education and maybe even in the experience part of your branding message, you might have a very similar background, right? You've got a similar degree as someone else, or similar training or similar certification to another HR person. You might have a similar experience, but when you get into that promise, that unique promise of value, right, that branding separation, you start to step out of the herd. And then when you get here, where you're defining your strengths DNA, you're really starting to step away from the herd and you're becoming more memorable. Now, if you've never taken the Clifton Strengths Finder, in fact, real quickly in chat, how many of you have taken the Clifton Strengths Finder assessment?
Quite a few.
Okay. Okay. Many of you have. Okay.
About 25 or, yeah.
Okay. So here's what you need to do. If it's been a while, you need to go back, here's the URL, and Carol, maybe you can drop this.
We'll send it out. Yeah, we'll send it out in the follow-up email.
Okay, my.gallup.com. My.gallup, oh, there you go. Somebody put your top 5 there. Awesome, love it. Woo, woo. Okay, my.gallup.com. You need to go there, you need to sign in, you need to download your strengths results, and you need to go through, and with a highlighter, you're going to begin to read your top 5 or your top 10 talents, and you're going to highlight every word, every phrase, every sentence. When you read that and you say, oh my gosh, that's me, then I want you to highlight that, okay? And then you can take some of that language right from your Clifton Strengths Assessment, lift it off of the page and put it in your branding message, okay? So here's my example. And I use these words. I actually provided, when I applied for this job, I provided them with a copy of my Strengths Finder assessment. This is what you can expect from me when I show up, okay? So here's my statement. As an activator, I am a catalyst for positive change. Okay, so back up for me. If we're not remarkable, what did you say we are? we're invisible, right? We are forgettable. We're just ordinary. Okay, so we need to make sure that we're using language that sounds different. Listen, from a hiring perspective, if I'm sitting across the conference room table, okay, 6 feet apart, of course, if I'm sitting across the conference room table and I've already been in multiple interviews with candidates that we are hiring, roles in which we are hiring, and they start using something that sounds different than the ordinary. So in other words, they're not saying I'm reliable, I'm dependable, I'm a hard worker, I have a good work ethic. All of those things are great, and they may be very true about you, and it's part of what makes you a remarkable candidate that they should be considering. But you've just got to figure out how to say it differently. Okay. And so the Clifton Strengths Assessment will help you come up with some exciting language that will help you get there. In my interview, I talked about how often I strive for excellence. The status quo or mediocre does not suffice for me. I often talked about the fact that I'm a maximizer. So I'm always looking to make something good and turn it into something positive. I also talk about how I'm highly competitive, and that, and first of all, I don't like to lose, but that drive produces a contagious enthusiasm throughout the department. So coming up with some language that is very authentic and genuine about the way that you like to work, and being able to say it in a way that doesn't just sound exciting on paper, but when you actually say it, right? Because you're talking about yourself and what your passions are and what excites you and what your best looks like. Trust me, that will come across in the interview as and again, beginning to separate you from the other group of candidates that are applying for this job. All right. So here's what I want you to do. I'm going to give you 3 minutes, and I want you to start capturing some of these top of mind ideas around your education, your scope, your branding promise, and your unique strengths. If you don't have ideas to plug in here yet, then I'm going to challenge you to put your to-do list here. Okay? Start creating a to-do list. So under my branding promise, or under my education and scope, I need to get clear about my target goal. Or under my branding promise, or under unique strengths, I want to go back and dust off my strengths finder assessment. But I want to give you 3 minutes to just start planning and thinking about, what does some of this language sound like, look like? Does that work? And then Carol, when we get back, are you saving questions for the end?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I've got, yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so here's some music for you to think by. Okay, awesome. Hopefully you have some ideas that you've jotted down. Um, if you are not familiar with Clifton Strengths, the assessment, let me go back. You can simply go to Amazon.com and purchase the book. It's around anywhere from $13 to $15. And inside the book is a code that allows you to go online and take the assessment. There's a whole lot of research behind it, more than I can cover or even give it justice in 30 seconds. But if you're interested in learning more about your natural talents and strengths and getting some great language like this to put into your personal branding message, order that from Amazon. You can place the order here in the next 30 minutes and have it tomorrow probably, and be that much closer, right, to having this personal branding message narrowed down. Okay, so real quickly in chat, when you think about your education and experience, what do you think really separates you from other people who are applying for the same jobs you're applying for? Share with me what you think might be slightly different. You're on mute, Carol.
Sorry. International experience, education, depth of commitment, focus on ethics and leadership, empathy.
Yes. Okay, awesome.
Passion and enthusiasm.
Okay.
Stories of previous accomplishments.
Okay.
That you're interested in the success of others.
Good.
Empathy from working in theater, so experiences that you've had.
Okay, good. That
Right.
starts to separate you, right? That's what we want.
Yeah.
When you think about your branding promise, what you promise to deliver, what does that look like? Something, how can you say it in a way that is unique or different or different, okay, than other people who are applying for the same job?
So 27 years of HR learning and development experience in municipal government agencies. So very specific to the industry. Dedicated to the cause and excellence.
Okay. So
yeah.
That's your branding promise. Okay. Think about what it is that you promise to make happen. Okay. Those are the things you want to call out in your branding promise. What do you promise to make happen? And what is the value that brings to the organization?
So able to develop strong relationships with the field. So we're, which increases sales to the company.
Yes. Okay. See how you combine those two together? Perfect.
Yeah.
Those are the kind of statements that you want to create and you want to craft. Very good.
Valerie, I'll share a quick story. When I went through this Purple Cow thing a million years ago and learned all this, and I did Strength Finders, I realized that I have the ability to have people create, I can create passion for whatever it is they want me to create passion for. So whatever organization I was looking at, whatever they were trying to get done, I would be able to say, I have the ability to get others to get excited about that as well. So it was an interesting, strength combined with message, combined with what's the result of that. So yes. I've always remembered that, and no matter what position I've been in, that's kind of what I promise to bring.
Okay.
So it's a combination of all the things you're talking about together.
Yes. So here's a sample from start to finish, what my branding message looked like. Okay. It's very succinct. You can see I have it separated into the 3 sections: education, experience, my branding promise, and then my strengths DNA. All right. All of this fits together, and this is your this is you commercial, basically, is what it is. Okay. So here are some best practices. Here's where we're going to land. Some things I want you to remember about your personal brand. First of all, make sure your personal brand includes all three of these elements, all right? Very important that you don't just focus on one. You've got to answer all three. They all three work together to make you more and more and more purple, okay? More and more remarkable. The second thing, and I touched on this at the very beginning, remember, your personal branding message has to get you to your desired destination. So you've got to be very clear about what type of job are you pursuing, okay? So that you know when you're talking about your branding promise, this is what you promise to deliver, that over here on the employer side, that's what they're trying to buy, okay? The third thing, okay? And this was my recommendation to every client I ever worked with. When you're in an interview, keep your answers to 45 seconds or less, okay? So in other words, you should be able to get through your entire branding message in 45 seconds or less. So that means you're going to have to rehearse, okay? I used to tell my clients, you know, hey, call yourself, we didn't have iPhones. This is bad. This tells you how old I am. Okay, we didn't have iPhones back then, okay? It was call yourself and record, you know, leave a message for yourself on your voicemail and go through your branding message and then call back and listen to yourself. Do you sound confident? Do you sound excited about what you promised to make happen? Do you sound like you have a lot of passion and energy? You can learn a lot about what you need to tweak and what you can do better by simply listening to yourself. Here's the other thing I want you to remember. This personal branding message contains all of those critical keys that you want to make sure that you rehearse through, or not rehearse, that you recap over and over and over and over again throughout the entire job search process, okay? So tell me in chat, once you've created this branding message, where else in the job search process can you reuse this information? Talk to me.
With your networking, cover letter, LinkedIn, thank you letter, and yeah, thank you notes. Any follow-up conversations, right? In the interview.
Perfect. In fact, listen, when you're in the interview, okay, and they ask you, tell me about yourself, okay? You sit back and you give your purple cow message, okay? When they say, tell me about your strengths, well, guess what? You're gonna recapture, and you're gonna go back and hit that third statement of your personal brand message. When they ask you questions about, you know, about your experience, right? Or about your deliverables, you're going back and you're reciting, you're recalling, you're sharing again these same key messages throughout the whole interview. When they ask you, why should I hire you? There you go. You go back and you say it again. Okay. It's kind of like right now. Okay. On the presidential stump, they've got their talking points, right? And it doesn't matter what news media they're talking to, they're talking about the same 5 or 6 things. I want you to talk about the same set of things, right? These 3 keys to your personal brand. I want you to recite it over and over and over again. And in the field of marketing and advertising, there's a thing called the rule of 7. The rule of 7 says it takes us seeing or hearing or watching something 7 times before we say to ourselves, oh, that's interesting. I think I might like that, right? Or, I vaguely remember hearing that one other time, okay? So 7 times, they repeat it over and over and over again, 7 times before we remember it. That's a great lesson for us to learn. When you think you've already said it, say it again. Say it in your cover letter, say it when you're networking, say it in your follow-up letter, say it during the interview. And when you get to the stage where you're negotiating for the salary, right? Say it again, because you're asking them to raise the bar from the offer that they extended you to the offer you really want. And here's why you need to pay me more. I'm a Gallup certified strengths coach with 25, okay, get it? You go back through reciting those components of your Purple Cow message, all right? So here's what we've covered. Discover the power of your strong brand. We talked about how to create your remarkable brand. Real quickly, before we do the Q&A, let me ask you a question. How has this idea of your personal brand changed in the last 45 minutes? Chat with me.
It's more clear, actionable items, a structure, a direction, how to condense all of the things that they're thinking. More confidence.
Yes, good.
Yeah. A plan, use of repetition. Use the information more than just once.
Thanks.
Yeah, how can I market myself to others? So that could be in your networking and other things that you're doing, right? See where your pitch is lacking and where it needs to be filled in.
Good.
Yeah, it extends to better interview and better communication.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. I love that. I love all of those answers. That's those answers. That's remarkable. Good.
Yeah.
All right, Carol, any questions?
Yeah, let's take a couple questions. And so how do you feel in your statement when you say 25 years of experience? So I'm assuming that may get to some of the worries about age, or we had those in the other session about some of the fears, being older, or not as new at things, or how do you use that time frame issue?
That's a great question, and I think again it's relevant to the job that you're applying for. Okay, obviously if I was applying for, let's take for example the client I worked with who graduated from Harvard Law, right? We didn't focus on her years of experience because she didn't have any. But for me, in the role that I was applying for as a senior level leader for HR, I felt like that set me apart from some of the other candidates that were younger. And listen, I'm not a spring chicken. I have 6 grandchildren, all right? I know my competition is the younger college grads, the millennials, right? The Gen X. They are my competition. And I really felt like for me, I wanted to tout my years of experience, successful experience in the industry. Now, in other cases, I would say this is a case-by-case basis. You may not tout that. You may only say 10 years experience, right? Or you might not even call that out at all. You would just say, I'm experienced in, and just leave it at that.
Great answer. So I'm going to kind of wrap a few questions together. So when you're looking maybe into applying for new roles, like moving into a different area. You might have the education there, but maybe you haven't worked in that. Like, how do you tell the story and your brand if you're kind of merging out into other things?
Great question. Okay. Here's my advice to you is you've got to get some experience. Okay. So even if that means out in the community, if it means volunteering for a nonprofit where you can get some experience, get some stories that you can share in the interview, right? Because if the interviewer is saying, you know, conducting behavioral interviews, tell me about a time when you can't talk about hypothetical, right? What you would do. You need stories of what you have done. I used to, Carol, I honestly don't know if this website even exists anymore, but there was a website called volunteermatch.org.
Yeah, it's been around for a while. That's
okay.
a good one.
So check that out, because you can actually like search for a particular field or a particular nonprofit that you would like to engage in or volunteer in. So if you have a passion for Alzheimer's or dementia, if you have a parent maybe that suffered from that, and you're thinking, I want to get some more HR experience and I would love to double up and do that for an organization that I care about, reach out to them, okay? Look on there to see if they have any opportunities available to you. If they don't have opportunities for you, go ask. Go start asking your network. Hey, I'm looking for an opportunity to, and then share that with people and let other people help you find that opportunity where you can build that experience and get those stories. Those stories are so important.
Perfect, perfect. It's called volunteermatch.com. I've got it down to send out in our follow-up here. And I think someone just posted that it's still around. So that's a good one. Yeah, good one. There were a few more things that I want to just, Valerie, I know you'd be willing. I'll just get the answers to. They were a little more direct. So we can answer those individually. And then let's wrap it up with, let's see, how can you separate skills from work context? So like you've been working in education, but you've been doing things like systems improvement and project management and those kinds of things. And then you still have those skills, but they're not in the context. Maybe you're moving to a different field, but it's the same skills.
Okay. Then,
so like you've been at a university for 25 years, right? But you've really been doing the elements of what you've been doing, despite your role title, are really project management. They're really, you know, maybe recruiting people, whatever that is. So they're transferable skills, but it feels like that all needs to be in education. How do you transfer those skills?
Okay, so you need to take a very proactive approach to connecting the dots for the employer. If you don't connect for them in the cover letter, in the interview, right, in the follow-up letter, if you don't show them how these skills are applicable to what they're looking for, they'll never make that connection. You'll never, right, like The Bachelor, you'll never get a rose, okay? So you've got to talk about that. You've got to be very proactive, even in your branding message, to talk about your, your IT experience. You've already talked about, right, years of experience working in university settings, blah, 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 right? And when you talk about your promise to deliver and you call out some of those skills, those competencies, talk about how it will impact that employer. What's the payoff for them when you bring those skills to their business? Did that answer the question?
I think so, yeah. I think people that, have been in education forever or nonprofit forever, it's really hard about thinking how you're really doing very specific things that could be in other, other places, but it's hard to think about. So
that's where you've got to do your research in advance, right? You've got to know that target job. You've got to know what that employer is shopping for, right? So that what they're willing to pay for, and then you've got to make that connection for them.
Perfect, perfect. Well, thank you so much, Valerie, and thank you everyone for joining us today. We hope you're walking away with things that you can put in place immediately. It sounds like many of you are. You will receive a survey about our session, and we welcome all your feedback to continue to improve. You'll also get a printable copy or a printable card for takeaway as well. Okay, my screen is not working. I do want to thank General Electric Credit Union and Valerie, and we will see you at our next session. The list of sessions and registration for other sessions are on our website at xavierleadershipcenter.com, and we look forward to seeing you on August 27th, and that is about resume writing and social media. So some of the questions that were answered today will also get answered in that session. So super great to have everyone here and love the engagement, and we will look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks, Valerie.
See ya.